Howdy, howdy, fellow movie watchers, and welcome back for another edition of the Wisco Movie Watchers Podcast, brought to you by PTE Creative. As always, we're your hosts, Evan Davies and Dylan Davies. On today's show, we're doing another Fix It episode, in which we are going to try to fix fantastic beasts and where to find them. So, for those who going back to show history, this is a kind of a blind fix it. We watch the movie and we maybe jot down some notes, but we don't actually go through and say, I would do X in the first scene, or change this, or do that. It's just conversational fix it, Stu. So,
yeah, an overview.
An overview of what we would. So, Fantastic Beasts is. In watching it last night, I like the first Fantastic Beasts. I don't love it. I don't think it's great, but it's a good movie on its own.
I really enjoy the first one. I've always enjoyed it. I mean, we'll get into the problems with it, but I've liked it from the first time I saw it, and I still really enjoy a lot of aspects of it. It's just it's really let down by the sequels.
Yeah, you mean the sequels that barely have anything to do with Fantastic Beasts?
Exactly. That's the problem.
I mean that's really the depths of my issues, and now having seen both sequels, and it's bad when Warner Brothers, who is so desperate for franchises, planned this to be a 5 franchise series, and they just stopped halfway through because they're just like, can't do it.
Yeah, and it just came out this week. Catherine Waterston, who plays Tina, she just came out in an interview saying that she doubts they're going to make any more. So if one of the main stars is saying that, pretty likely they're not going to make any more.
Yeah. Well, it was weird even when they were doing the releases. Like, obviously, Fantastic Beasts came out of nowhere, but it was a big groundswell to get there, right? Then Crimes of Grindelwald, you couldn't go anywhere without seeing advertisement for Crimes of Grindelwald. Then for Secrets of Dumbledore, I don't think I knew about the movie until like 2 weeks before. It was just like,
well,
hey, here's another one. You're like, okay.
Secrets of Dumbledore was both a combination of COVID and pretty poor marketing on their part and bad reception of Crimes of Grindelwald. So it had a lot going against it. So, and I actually do really like Secrets of Dumbledore. Not nearly as much as the first Fantastic Beasts, but I think it on its own it is a pretty good movie.
I don't share that sentiment, but I can at least understand it. It just kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's just, hey, cool.
I think I really enjoy it simply because I really enjoy Jude Law's portrayal of Dumbledore.
Okay. And that's fair
And
enough.
that's pretty much what that movie gives you, is like, it's pretty much what the movie's about, which shows like, why are you creating a Fantastic Beasts franchise when clearly that is not the story you want to be telling?
Yeah.
And that's my jumping into Fantastic Beasts. That's my biggest problem with this franchise as a whole, is like, it's obviously just a failure to launch from the get-go.
Yep.
Because clearly either J.K. Rowling or Warner Brothers, somewhere in there, this is clear that this is not the story they want to be telling. They want to be telling the story of Dumbledore and Grindelwald. So why did they choose the Fantastic Beasts story and Newt Scamander story to tell that story? Like, why did they go through that medium to do it?
Yeah, no, that is my huge concern and my biggest gripe is the vast majority of my notes are all like the geopolitics of the wizarding world
Yeah.
and the just going back because when you first see it you're like, "Oh, that's okay, like setting up another dark wizard." Okay.
Hmm.
But that dark wizard has nothing to do with Newt. It has nothing to do with the Fantastic Beasts. And
Yep.
I understand people would say, "No, the Obscurial." It's like I understand he wants to use an Obscurial to his advantage, but it's not the
So
same as, hey, I want to get this army of magical creatures to
yes.
overrun things, and it just so happens that I have this extreme advocate for magical creatures foiling
Yeah.
me. It's not how it works, you know?
So just for the uninitiated, anyone who just doesn't really know anything about Harry Potter or isn't really steeped in that world, this is just based on a textbook in the world of Harry Potter. And
Yeah.
it's this book right here. It's like literally a super small book. I can look it up right now. 42 pages.
It barely even counts as a novella. I don't even think it does count as a
Yeah.
novella.
So it barely gets mentioned in the Harry Potter world itself. It probably gets mentioned grand total of maybe 3 times in the whole 7 book series.
Yeah.
And then in the prologue is when they talk about Newt in this book. So I wrote down the facts that they give you. So this is all the information you get about Newt Scamander before this movie comes out. This is it. He was born in 1897. He worked for the Ministry of Magic in the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures. He is responsible for the creation of the Werewolf Register and the ban on experimental breeding of untamable monsters. That's it. Oh, and he was married to Tina. That's the only information they have to base this story on. He could have went
Yeah.
anywhere. There's no mention of Dumbledore. There's no mention of Grindelwald. That's it. There is an introduction by Dumbledore in the textbook, but there's no mention of like adventures they went on together or anything like that.
Yep.
It's just, yeah, that's all the information that J.K. Rowling gives about Newt. So I don't know why they went with this story.
So the thing is, this is I think we're spot on in the critique of they wanted to tell Grindelwald Dumbledore, right? That's the
Yeah,
story they wanted to tell. Newt and Fantastic Beasts is not the right avenue to do it. If you want to actually truly adapt Fantastic Beasts and you want to make a movie or a series about a magizoologist who goes around finding magical creatures
yeah.
and has to help them and has adventures in the field, that's fine because honestly, having
I
so little description of Newt actually is super helpful because then it's all up to interpretation of what's doing.
exactly. And when I first heard about this series, I kind of pictured that as like a globe-trotting Indiana Jones kind of thing.
That is literally
Like,
my note here. I was like, why isn't this just magic Indiana Jones world spanning? You know, James
yeah, and
Bond
like,
esque, just place to place to
yeah,
place.
instead of like going and looking at archaeological artifacts, you're looking at magical creatures. Like, that's an awesome story to me. I would be all for that. That'd be so cool. But it's just clear that that's not the story they want to tell.
Right. And the thing is, this is I think it would be wrong for them to do it, but I still think there's somewhere in there you could maybe get a Grindelwald subplot there, but you can't tell Dumbledore and Grindelwald at the same time.
Well,
Unless it's
I just
like
don't.
cameo appearances of the characters.
If they want to tell the Fantastic Beast story, then just do that. And if you want to do the Dumbledore story, just do that in its own completely separate story.
Yes.
Like, start another franchise.
Well, I'm trying to think. When was... I'm going to Google it quick. When HBO Max was officially launched and created. Right?
That's a good question.
Because when
It
I'm...
has to be after 2016.
Because when I'm thinking about it, May 27th, 2020.
Okay, yeah.
Hold on. That's crazy. Yeah, May 2020, so that's a lot later than I thought. My issue is this, is streaming services don't just pop up out of nowhere. Right? Like,
Hmm.
streaming services at the very least have 3 to 5 years of a launch period in front of them. Now, Fantastic Beasts was released in, what, 2016?
Yep.
You can maybe give them the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, maybe they don't have... Maybe they don't have this idea for Max prior to this. But one of those two stories in this world where they're separate, maybe they interact a hair. You know, like, I have no issue if you want to have Dumbledore be a cameo. It's like Newt's in a bind. He needs a real powerful favor, and you get Dumbledore once.
Well, what my idea was start the two franchises on their own, like maybe three movies each, and then you have them join for like a fourth and fifth movie.
Sure.
Like, that would work, or just completely keep them separate. Like,
Yes.
I if they're like Warner Brothers is 100% like just grasping at straws for any content they can find.
Especially now, yeah. Back then they were too, so
So,
we don't want to say
yeah,
it's like,
they still like they were struggling to find stuff for the DC universe.
which is
They
hilarious.
were they were just trying to find their DC universe. And then yeah, Harry Potter was over by that point completely.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why they weren't just trying to do things that would I don't it's just so frustrating that they chose to combine two things that just seem completely like
Unnecessarily needed to combine, yeah. I mean,
yes.
the biggest thing for me is when I look at the streaming world, this is tailor made for that. And I have truly no issue at this point, because I've finally gotten to this place with Star Wars, right? Disney will do anything it can to make another IP in Star Wars, because no matter what, people watch it and people talk about it, and
Yeah.
it brings eyeballs to Disney Plus. And of all the streaming services, I will say Disney Plus is probably one of my favorites. It at least does it
Mhm.
properly, has a good user interface, and it learns you as a viewer very quickly. But at the same time, you don't have to deal with a lot of bullshit, right? There's no. They just started doing the ad tiers and all that, right? Yeah. So Disney Plus, I think, does a good job of using its franchises properly. Disney Plus came on and they said within a year we're gonna have within a year of launch they had Mandalorian, they had WandaVision, and those were the two big things that got people invested into getting the streaming service besides and they had the new Fox library so they could use The Simpsons and they could use a lot of that stuff to their advantage. That's all great and fine and good, but the new content is usually what continually keeps people going on a streaming service. Otherwise, they usually use it for a couple months and they're like, okay, I think I've got my fill.
Yeah.
Right? To me, what makes no sense is there is a bailout point prior to Crimes of Grindelwald in which it's abundantly clear, or at least should be known throughout your company, that HBO Max, now Max, is coming. So even if you want to say like we 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 started that and we teased it in Fantastic Beasts, there's a bailout point where you could say, okay, we're gonna keep doing Fantastic Beasts, so we get the big
Uh-huh.
movie audiences there, and then we're gonna go to the streaming world to tell our Dark Wizard story. Or we're going to tell our Dark Wizard story and we're going to keep that up. And then we're going to do a streaming exclusive, movie and or series of things on Max.
Yeah.
That all should have been done. And it never was. And that's the problem is that you have these two really diametrically opposed ideas running concurrently in the story.
Yeah. They just seem to lack any kind of foresight or like any kind of planning for like literally any of their properties.
It is truly, I think it's fair to say this. This is a less offensive version of Batman versus Superman. Where Batman versus Superman was so clearly made up as a story to get to Justice League and the DCEU.
Yeah.
Because if the story truly was Batman, and we've covered this on the show, so our listeners
Yeah.
and viewers would know, right? If it was truly just a Batman Superman conflict, and then you have Lex there pulling the strings, and then they come together to beat Lex, that's fine in a 2.5 hour movie. Because it's just, okay, we want to introduce our Batman, we want to introduce one of our major villains, and we want to continue the story of Superman. And hell, maybe you could still even throw in a cameo from Wonder Woman. Not the full half storyline you get, but a cameo. That's fine to start your universe. Here, there's just so much new in Fantastic Beasts where you're meeting your brand new main character who ends up essentially playing second fiddle most of the time in the next two movies,
Oh, yeah, completely.
which is stupid because he's part of the things that's endearing and you want to see again is Newt. Eddie Redmayne does
Yes.
such a good job with Newt as Commander.
Yeah, I really love his character. And I really love him as the character.
Because I wrote down some positives here, just jotting down notes. I think the positives of the movie are what go away in the future installments. I think the case is super interesting and how he has essentially just a magical zoo in his suitcase is fascinating. And Ab made a good point. Have you ever gotten to play Hogwarts Legacy, the video game, yet?
I have played it. I don't play it all that often just because I don't play video games that much.
But she made a great point that she's like, this case was clearly the inspiration behind how they do the room of requirement in the video game. And I was like, oh, okay, it's a pretty fascinating thing to think about. It's clearly used well. The creature hunting is really interesting and fun, especially when we're in the Central Park, the Bronx Zoo, and he's got to imitate like mating calls. That's fun and endearing, and you can have some comedy in it, but it still has some tension and some drama, and you can show why Newt is the foremost authority on magical creatures. That's all really fun, and I think all four main characters have a lot of chemistry together. They're all very endearing.
That's the strongest part of this first movie is those central four.
Yeah,
Those the actors and the characters are really well written, and those four have great chemistry together.
they all have great chemistry. They're all written very well, and the other thing is this is we've kind of touched on this is when you start a franchise, I am always in favor of getting actors that haven't fully peaked yet in your main roles. Because
Mhm.
people don't go, whoa, that's. I'll use an example of a movie that then gutted me Thor Love and Thunder. When they cast Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher, I lost my goddamn mind. I lost my fucking mind. A, I love Christian Bale. B, I love Gore the
Uh-huh.
God Butcher, and that's some of the best Thor stuff in the comics ever. And they wasted all three.
Yeah.
But when you see it, you go, "Oh, Christian Bale's doing such a good job as Gore in the movie." You don't go, "Oh my God, this Gore character's so cool," and like, what could he do against Thor and all this kind of stuff. You don't see that. You see Christian Bale as Gore. When you get these four,
Right.
I know Eddie Redmayne had Theory of Everything by this point.
Yeah, he had won an Oscar
He had already
already.
won an Oscar, but he hadn't done a big franchise. He hadn't done anything that made him synonymous with something.
Well, he had just done Jupiter Ascending
Which thankfully bombed
a
for the
year
sake of
before.
this movie, yes.
Yeah.
Because Jupiter Ascending, he's bad. The whole movie's bad, but he is
I would
bad.
argue one of the worst performances I've ever seen in a movie.
That's really sad because, yeah. Also, like, he's just not doing anything that much anymore. He's just not getting roles. Jupiter Ascending, he dodged that bullet, and then Fantastic Beasts kind of just went, "Oh, you're the Harry Potter guy now." And he
So
doesn't.
he's in that new series on Peacock, The Day of
Jackal,
the Jackal.
yeah, Day of the Jackal or
Yeah,
whatever.
which I'm actually interested in, but
But yeah, he's not doing the things that I thought. I thought he was going to get launched into
yeah.
big stardom. Like, I think I understand now. Everyone just computes like, well, who would he play in Star Wars, or who would he play in Marvel, or who would he play in these kind of roles? But I could see him doing that if this was a different, if things worked out better for Fantastic Beasts, or he's in house, he's part of the family. Then how he doesn't get a standalone big series for DC with some of the oddball characters is kind of crazy to me. But all four of them are at this level where they've done stuff, but they're not stars.
Well, Alison Sudol, who Queenie.
Hmm?
I don't think she had ever acted before because she was only a singer.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
she was a singer for a band. I can't remember the name of the band, but yeah, she was just a singer. I don't think she had ever acted in a movie before because that really surprised me because I was like, she's actually like one of the standouts, I would say.
Yes. I do think that's also partially another positive of this movie is of the four, Queenie's definitely the one with the least amount of screen time. It's used in
True.
it's used in bits and pieces to do quirky character work. She doesn't have to
Yeah,
do any of the real heavy lifting. I'm not saying
and
she does a bad job.
yeah,
She does a great job, but
and to talk about the franchise as a whole, they completely just ruin her character
oh, but
going forward.
the
Like,
second one's so bad with Queen.
yeah, I don't. I just hate where they went with that. Like, there was so much promise there. Eh, Yeah,
Well, the fact
it's a
is,
shame where it went.
well, I guess we should have said spoilers at the beginning of the episode, but at this point, if you're watching this, you probably have already seen it. The fact that they have this, so I can certainly say this as someone who usually roots for this style of story. When you're having this like big bad, that's the insidious, trying to deceive everybody style character in this big movement, I do think it's extremely smart and necessary to deceive one of your big characters that you're always rooting for to go to the dark side for
Oh,
something.
yeah, I should say I don't mind the choice that she goes with him. She just seems so stupid in the way they did it.
That's my issue is there's no real catalyst. It's just it feels very talk about political climate that we've just dealt with. It feels very much like a surface voter who doesn't actually pay attention and they heard one speech of Donald Trump and
Sure.
he said he's going to make it better. Well, did you see the other things that he's been doing? You see the people that he works with? You see this or that? Well, but he said he's going to make it better. It's like I could say I could say that. Would you immediately just go with me? Or if if the other candidate said that, would you just go with them? You know, are people just gonna
Yeah,
follow Darth Vader when he's just like, we're gonna bring order to the galaxy? No, they're scared out of their fucking mind because they think he's a crazy tyrant.
and this movie itself has some early Donald Trump stuff in it,
Yes,
the early Trump era stuff, because it came out in 2016
it's clearly
with the
based on that. Yes,
with the senator and John Voight and all that.
which is super
Um,
unnecessary. I hate that subplot.
there was so much of that in 2016, 2017, and it just has not aged well. Like some stuff, if you do it right, that can age pretty well
Yeah,
because you can hide it well. But some of the stuff, oof, it has not aged well at all.
I'm gonna be honest. If I were gonna take this movie and gut it, it's all gone. I don't
Oh
have.
yeah.
I have none of the subplot with Credence. None
Okay.
of it.
So yes. So let's talk about the plot a little bit.
Yeah,
So what I wrote down as the main thing was just juggling too many balls.
yeah,
I wrote down all the plots that we're trying to follow here. You got Newt and the Beasts trying to recapture them. And you got Tina and Newt having kind of hinting at their future love story because we know that's where eventually it's going to go.
yes.
This I actually do think they did that one pretty well because they don't force it in at all in the first one.
I think that
They
was
try to
actually done pretty well. I don't need the subplot of him still being in love with somebody else. Which I think his character's
sure.
enough for him to just kind of be like, I'm not sure, really cautious about things.
Yeah.
But I think
I
at the
didn't
end
mind
it's left in a really good place where you know it's going to happen, you want to see more of it,
yes.
but at the same time it's not just like, well, just kiss and just make sure that you're in love already, you know?
Yeah, I really like the way they didn't kiss at the end because it just seems so cliche to do that.
Yeah.
And then third, you got the second Salemers, that whole plot,
Awful. Get
and
rid of
then
it.
and then within that, you're following the red herring of the little girl, second Salemer. Then you got Credence and Graves, I should say Graves, and then you got the senator and John Voight. And then within that plot, you're also following that senator's brother who's obsessed with trying to convince them of witchcraft.
Yep.
And then you got Makusa and Pickery worrying about Grindelwald. And then the seventh one is Credence and the Obscurus attacking the city. 7 plots to follow.
It's brutal.
Now let's compare that to the first Harry Potter movie. It is one plot line that you're following through the eyes of Harry. That's it.
Yeah, it's too much world building. It's trying to do too much, and they do a good job balancing everything. But you know, going in, you no longer live in the world where you believe in studio restraint. You just go in knowing like, oh, this is the new Harry Potter franchise. So you kind of give it a pass as a viewer. And I will say, in Fantastic Beasts 1, just containing it in that movie, they do a pretty decent job. Too many plot lines. I don't need a lot of the stuff, but for the story they tell, it all
Okay,
works sort of
but
cohesively.
in your opinion, is the second Salemers plot line needed? Is the senator plot line needed?
No, I the senator one specifically is not necessary.
That one just makes no sense to me. Why it's in there? I was really thinking about it. I was like, okay, what's the purpose of this in this story? And I was like, I honestly can't think of why it's in here.
I think the other thing is, again, it shows to where that I here's why that's in there. if I'm going to answer your question directly. It goes back to
Yeah.
our problems before. This was meant to be the avenue to tell Dumbledore and Grindelwald. Because all
Hmm.
that furthers the, oh my god, the tension between the muggles or the no-mages and magical folk, and it's fueling the war that is to come. It's not fueling
Sure.
anything about Newt. It's not fueling anything about, and it just, Credence very much feels like, Credence and him being an Obscurus very much feels like he's an Obscurus, so then you can involve Newt in the story. It does not feel like, oh my god, we need to do this. Where I think an interesting subplot or a little piece of dialogue that they did where how Newt got the Obscurus that he's in possession of.
Yeah.
Where that would be really interesting if we're gonna do the
Yeah.
globetrotting style. He went to Africa and he saved a young girl and captured her Obscurus.
Or well, try to. Yes.
Tried to and failed, but he at least captured the Obscurus. So he's theoretically, it's almost the Exorcist. He's the one who finally accomplished it. So that's why we have to call his ass
Yeah.
in. And he's on field work and he gets called in to do it. Then you could almost have the Tina character be like, we are monitoring this because it's so bad that now we as a federal agency have to figure this shit out.
Yeah.
And we have to turn to someone who's not fully respected in the field yet because you just happen to have the success of getting it half right. You know?
Yes. And the idea of the Obscurus in the larger sense is a really important piece of information that J.K. Rowling created in this because it introduces the idea that Dumbledore's younger sister was an Obscurus
Ooh, I never always think about that.
because yeah, that was that pretty much that's why they created the Obscurus because it explains that part of this Dumbledore Grindelwald story.
Gotcha.
Yeah, for anyone that doesn't know, Dumbledore's sister always had a hard time controlling her magic. Grindelwald and Dumbledore were friends at one point in their life. They ended up dueling each other. Then somehow in that mix, one of them killed Ariana, Dumbledore's sister. So
Yeah,
it's not totally clear how that happened, but you can infer within that now that Grindelwald in some way wanted to use the power of the Obscurus and Ariana to his advantage.
yeah. Also, doesn't it essentially kind of hint at the fact that they're not even just friends, they're lovers at the time?
That is not
A
at
th-
all in the books. That was after the fact that
Okay.
J.K. Rowling came out with that information. So yes, it in this it would be the fact, and then in the next movie it's 100% confirmed,
Yes.
which I actually really like. I have no problem with the way they go with that. I actually really think they do a really, really good job of that in The Secrets of Dumbledore with what's his
Mads,
face.
Mads Mikkelsen?
Thank you. Yes, I think his portrayal is so great, so much better than Johnny Depp's. Which talk about a distraction. Um,
Yeah, you couldn't have done much worse in the casting department for future problems.
oh yeah, especially at the time.
Well, when he is cast and first shown, it's it's fine. I think that stuff was just starting to percolate when the movie was starting to come out. Then it took like years and years and years and years.
I don't think so. I think it was already a problem.
Well,
I'll
no,
look it
because
up right
no,
now.
because remember, everyone fell in love with Amber Heard for Aquaman, and then it was like immediately after that, that's when the shit hit the fan. Because they didn't hide her at all in the first Aquaman. They have to hide her in the second Aquaman because they're like, she's technically a part of this franchise, but we can't do anything with her because it's just so controversial to be around her. She's contagious and we can't have it.
So, okay, so got married in 2015 in February.
Yeah.
They filed they filed for divorce in May of 2016. So that would have been about a month before this movie came out.
This movie came out in like November.
Oh, I think it was a winter release
Yeah,
actually.
they wanted the Christmas audiences to go.
Yes. I think you're right. Yeah.
But they got divorced, but not the stories weren't coming out of how toxic and bad it was. At this point, I thought. I know
Um
it's so stupid because we might have to go down the rabbit hole of the E and People magazine level of, hey, can we get a timeline of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard story? But
so according to this Google search I did, while she filed for divorce, she also requested a temporary restraining order alleging that Johnny Depp had thrown his phone at her, leaving her with a bruised face.
oh yeah, yeah, because
So this is
the reveal happens, and I remember a lot of people in the audience going, "Ooh." Like
yes.
you could actively hear an entire theater's buttholes clench because they're just like, "Oh, this is not
So this is
ideal."
so this is still when everyone just is assuming Johnny Depp is just a domestic abuser. We don't hear the whole story, anyone else's side of the story.
Yeah.
You're just getting that. I mean, obviously, it's not a good story any way you put it,
Yes.
but they still chose to go forward with it.
And
They had time. They could have reshot it.
yeah, he is in the movie for one scene.
Exactly. They could have easily reshot it. He's in it for what, 15 seconds?
Yeah, and it's a face morph. I honestly kind of wish if they were gonna stick the American one, Colin Farrell just stuck with it. I don't like that. I
I
don't
have been saying that from the beginning. I was like, why isn't Colin Farrell in this? I wanted him so much.
talk about an actor that I've come around on. When we were kids and we were first starting to get into movies, I fucking hated Colin Farrell because
I remember that.
almost every movie he did sucked, and it always felt like he was late to the party, and you're like, you fucking loser, just stop. Like all the historical epics come out, and then he does Alexander, and you're like, we're done with the 3 hour historical epics of war. No one
Yeah.
cares. Or he's doing these rando action
Or
movies.
Daredevil.
Yeah, Daredevil, like, and it's a really bad Bullseye. It's just bad. You know, all these dumb things. And since In Bruges, which I haven't seen In Bruges yet, but I know was really well, but I know that was essentially the
It's
turn.
great.
The turn in that for in his career is wild. It's like In Bruges happens, he gets Fantastic Beasts. He is so goddamn good as the Penguin. It's not even funny. In the Batman, he's done a lot of stuff that when I see him, I'm like, oh shit, Colin Farrell's in this. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to this now, as opposed to,
Yeah.
oh, Colin Farrell's in this movie.
And yeah, and in any interview, he is like one of the most likable, down to earth people.
Yeah,
Like, I just wish I've been saying that since this movie, the first Fantastic Beasts came out. I was like, why didn't they just stick with him? It would have been so great. Obviously, you would have had to find a way to explain like why no one recognized him,
yeah.
but
I mean, you could have made him scarred, or you could have made him like the eye dilation or polyjuice potion, but it's only like kind of morphing around. It's not
yeah,
because they could have kind of done a kind of what they've done with the Penguin, where you only know that's Colin Farrell because you're told it's Colin Farrell,
that's true. Yeah,
but you don't when you watch the series. That ain't Colin Farrell. That's Oz Cobb. That's the fucking Penguin. That ain't Colin Farrell. So he could have done something like that, which would have been very worthwhile. But I don't like the storylines he's involved with, but I think he's tremendous in this movie. And
I
I
really love the scene when they're interrogating the two of them.
yeah,
Like just the flippant way he just says like, "So it's useless without its host."
yeah,
Like that seems like a way that a villain like Grindelwald would say that. Like that's one of the parts that I actually do like about the writing. There was a lot that I did not like, which I wrote down, which I'll talk about in a second.
sure.
But when you have Colin Farrell doing it, that it's fine. He's great.
Well, also it's just a very quick. It's a quick flip where people can go, oh, they should have already saw it coming. They knew he was duplicitous, but they didn't know his goals by this point. I do love the fact
Yeah.
that even like Newt's like, why would you want to use this? Why would
Yeah.
you want to like? And the same thing for Tina. She's just like, because the whole time she's weary that Newt's lying, or she's weary that Newt's not in control. And then she hears that, and he's like, "Oh, wait, no, I should have trusted Newt the entire time."
Yeah, and then to cover it up, he just sentences them to death
Yeah,
immediately.
so quickly, and that is one thing.
I did not remember that. I was like, "Holy shit, that's dark."
Way too fast, way too fast. Like,
Yeah.
and also, what does that say about the magical organization that you're supposed to pseudo root for in this? Where
Oh
just
yeah.
they just tell a guy take care of it, and he gets all jurisdiction, and he can just say, "Kill him."
Yeah.
He can just do
I
that,
mean,
and the next scene is them going to their deaths. You're like, how does that work?
yeah, they show Makusa and Hickory, the president of Makusa. They're just fucking awful.
They're
Like
brutal.
when they come out of when they're in that like big senate of all the international, I'm assuming they're all international leaders
Yeah.
of their ministries or whatever.
You mean when you get to see Gemma Chan?
Um, exactly, which was great. I was like, oh, that would have been great to bring her back because I have a huge crush on her. But like Tina's saying like trying to explain like, oh, these Fantastic Beasts got out, and I was trying to tell you about that, but then Pickery's just like, you knew about this the whole time. It's like, yeah, you cut her off a million times when she was trying to tell you that 4 fucking days ago, you fucking asshole.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like I
Pickery sucks, and you're supposed to like pseudo root for her.
no, you are supposed to like her because in the sequels, she's in there and you're supposed to like her. Like
Not a way to
she's
handle that.
completely unlikable.
She's way too rash as a leader. Way too like we're dealing with something else. And you're like, that's not how ruling a government works. It's not
Yeah,
how running a government
she's supposed to
works.
be she's supposed to be like a strong female leader.
She's
But
not good at
in
it.
this, she just is an idiot.
She's not good at it at all. It's brutal. Yeah, a lot of flaw. Like the thing about it is there's way too much dipping the toe into world building and trying to do too much with this movie, and it's saved by the fact that the four of them together are so undeniably likable.
Yeah.
But outside of the four of them, woof, there's a lot of problems.
Okay. Yeah. Also, we haven't mentioned him, but I probably should because this was my biggest hangup when they announced it. Dan Fogler as Jacob. When they announced that casting, I was like, "Oh, fuck."
Yeah,
I
because
did not like that.
well, he had only been doing these like C level, D level, like buddy comedy roles in which there's a
Yeah.
movie that I love that was
Like the only
never
thing.
popular, which is called Take Me Home Tonight with Topher Grace and Teresa
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
I love that movie. It's a very much a 90-minute fast bullshit 80s comfort movie style. And it's an inoffensive 90s movie or 2010 movie that's just like 90 minutes and quick. That's the only time I've ever seen anything where I was like, maybe he's kind of funny, but even I was like, he doesn't fit in fucking Fantastic Beasts. Like this
Well,
makes no
the
sense.
only yeah, and the only thing I had seen him where he's the lead in was Balls of Fury, that
Ooh.
that ping the ping pong movie with Christopher Walken.
Yeah, not
Which
good. Not good.
when they announced that casting, I was like, "Oh god, that just does not fit in my mind at all." But then when I came out, I was like, "I think he might be my favorite part of that movie."
He is my favorite
It
part
was
of that
in
movie.
It's insane. Like, he does a great job because he's like the heart of that movie.
Yes, and that's what makes Queenie's Fall even worse because you get the emotional weight of it and you get the stupidity of it in
Yeah.
the sequel. And also, I wrote this down at the end. The ending of this movie just erases the majority of the movie.
True.
It's just like, hey, you know that character you fell in love with because he's essentially your lens into the wizarding world? You know, he's on screen what we would all be doing if we were introduced to this. We're
Yeah.
just gonna erase his memory. And he doesn't count anymore. And I understand at the
Well,
end they tease, oh, like, well, Queenie's gonna bring him back, sort of. And
no, so this is one thing I don't like about the sequel is they confirm what was a fan theory at the time, which was that only erased bad memories, not good memories, which obviously that would have all been good memories for Jacob.
yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Uh, so that was a fan theory at the time that was just confirmed with the sequel. Didn't really like that they went that route with it, but it seemed too easy. But yeah, they needed something to explain it, I guess.
Which also just unnecessary. Again, this goes back to the stupid subplots that you don't need. You could just. There are muggles that understand. I understand. We're seeing what from this time, Harry Potter, the books happened technically in the 90s. From the film franchise, it happens in the 2000s.
Yes.
But in 70 years' time, it goes from no one can know to, people know. It's just still a
Well,
secret.
even in this movie, Britain Muggles know about wizards and witches
Yeah.
because they're already married. There's like half blood families and stuff.
Yeah, and it's so dumb. That's also. I understand what they were going for. This is also the height of, quote, woke Hollywood.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, now we've boomeranged way too far back to the anti woke Hollywood. And you're like, no, 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 no. Woke Hollywood wasn't meant to be a, hey, everyone gets a turn because everyone gets a turn. It was just meant to be a, hey, isn't this kind of fucked? Why don't we just not do that? Sure, social media takes it too far from time to time, whatever the case may be, but it's all it was meant to be. This movie, it's like, well, I think you're kind of backwards for not allowing this, 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 and that. And you're like, well, that was somewhat of an unnecessary shot to get in there to really just hammer home, well, you guys suck
Yeah.
in this country.
Yeah, I was gonna say nail, hammer. Like I was just like, oh god. And that's one of the things we should mention is J.K. Rowling writing the script completely alone.
Oh, yeah.
It's her first screenplay. Had never written a screenplay before. She she had been boasting in interviews and stuff that she bought one screenplay writing book, never looked at it, So I don't mind that. I'm sure they had some kind of
Someone
writer.
cleaned it up. There's no
Yeah.
way she just did it herself.
I just don't see why they didn't credit Steve Clovis and use him. He had already done literally all the Harry Potter movies except one. So why not just use him?
Yeah.
You're and he's worked with David Yates 4 times already. Just fucking use him.
Oh yeah, is David Yates the director of this?
Yes, and that's another problem I have with it.
Shoot on that, because then we got to get into actually fixing this motherfucker, but not
Okay,
totally.
so David Yates, it's not that he's a bad director, because he's not. He's perfectly fine. It's just such an uninspired, safe choice.
Yeah.
Like after, I always loved the Harry Potter movies, the first five. You're always getting a different vision, pretty much, except the first two with Christopher Columbus.
Yes, and even that
Each movie,
slightly evolves a little bit, yeah.
each movie, you're getting pretty much completely the new style. I love that.
Yeah, they managed to still keep it very cohesive, but at the same time, each has their own feel. And you can, and based on what you like, is because there are people that, we're diehards on the Azkaban's the best one, pretty much
Yes,
of the 8 films that were done. You may have another one that you like more because of plot or whatever, but in terms of just movie making, Azkaban's the best one. But I know a lot of people that are like, "Oh no, I love Goblet of Fire. That was my favorite one." And to me, that's one of the weaker ones.
yeah,
But there are people that love that style. Order of the Phoenix. It's kind of a boring book and leads to somewhat of a boring movie. But there's a lot of people like, "No, I love Order of the Phoenix. It's the tension and all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
It works."
It's. I think it's because the David Yates ones had just made the most money, but I think that's inevitable. Like they're the later movies. They're the ones that are the finale of a giant series.
A series that's been successful at that, not even like
Yeah,
we gotta wrap this bitch up. It's like, no, we're looking forward to that payday because it's coming and we know it's coming.
exactly. People are gonna watch those movies no matter what. You could put like trying to think of just a terrible direct McG. You could put McG as the director. People are still gonna go to the movie.
Yeah,
Like it's just I just don't understand why they keep sticking with David Yates. He
I
did all three Fantastic Beasts.
the only thing I would say in that is A, it's a comfort level with him. Obviously, they don't do that if they're not very comfortable with it. But B, these productions are huge, and you're not. I heard it best the other day. Directors aren't what we all fantasy cast them as, where they're these great creative forces that it's all through their vision. Yes, there are movies that they get to do like that, but they're not this scale, right? Directors on this scale
Sure.
are the managers. They go, okay, is this done? Is this done? When you look at the lighting, it's not because the director said I want this lighting. It's because, well, I'd like this, but you guys take care of it and I'll tweak it how I feel.
Yeah.
The
What you're
shots.
saying is
Yeah.
they're not all auteurs.
No. And David Yates is probably, especially from a studio standpoint, a very comfortable choice that knows how to go, okay, we have costume. Do we have lighting? Do we have our writing done? Do we have this done? Do we have that? Everyone's
Yeah.
good. Everyone's good. Okay, we're going to make this production as smooth as possible. And we're going to get it done on time. We're not going to go over budget, whatever the case may be. That's probably what his strong suit is. There's nothing wrong with that strong suit. I don't know any of his other work outside of Harry Potter. I don't know if he has
I
other work that's of note outside
I
of Harry Potter.
the only one I'm aware of is that the Legend of Tarzan movie with Margot
Oh,
Robbie.
oh,
Exactly.
that can't be good.
That's the only thing. That's the only other movie that I can think of.
And again, if that's what you're good at, it's fine. Well, I mean, Marvel's doing the same thing. The Russo brothers don't have a huge catalog of movies that you go, oh god, the Russo
True.
brothers. The Russo brothers are really good at working within the Marvel Disney studio system, and they understand what Marvel's trying to achieve. They put a little bit of a spin on it, but mostly it's just they go with what Marvel needs and they get the job done and they manage all of the things that Marvel needs them to manage. That's what they do. But you're not going out there going like, oh, I can't wait for the next Russo brothers movie, like Spielberg, you know?
Exactly.
And yeah, like when you get Alfonso Cuarón and a couple other directors in there and the early ones, you're like, it wouldn't suck to have this. I think that's.
That's the thing is,
Go ahead.
I
Go
just
ahead.
want them to take a chance on something.
I think. I think David Yates is fine for the first one because you
Sure.
want it to feel familiar. You want to get back to that warm fuzzy place that everyone's in.
He's the Christopher Columbus of the Fantastic Beasts franchise.
But then you need when it starts going dark and it gets really dark where
At times, yep.
where you're just like, oh, essentially doing wizard Nazis and we're doing all kinds of wild shit. That's not going to play as well. You need someone who's going to go into it. This is just one I thought of. I think it'd be too much of a departure for a first one. Who in the fuck didn't think, why don't we call Guillermo del Toro and try to do this shit? And it's a make good for The Hobbit. Because you couldn't get him to do that. You couldn't finish The Hobbit properly with. And you could say, hey, I know you didn't get to do The Hobbit, but we're doing this Fantastic Beasts, and you would do a lot of good work with that.
The thing is, I don't think he would do it only because he has to work with so many rules within the
Yes. I mean, maybe.
world. I
Yes, but.
Because that's the thing is like the world is technically so rich and vast and fantastical, but technically there are a lot of rules within the Harry Potter universe.
Well, that's the thing, is technically, by some terms, this is low fantasy. It's not high fantasy. High fantasy is completely
Yes.
new worlds. Low fantasy is it happens in the real world. And,
Yeah.
and yeah, so yes, that's true. But at least make the fucking phone call. Make a public
I would
thing
love
about
to
it.
see it.
Make a public plea, please, Guillermo. We want you to do this. Or or again, he's in the family because you have MGM and Warner Brothers together. Fucking call Peter
Yeah.
Jackson. Like, Peter, do you want to do one of these? You don't have to do the whole thing. Because he didn't want to do The Hobbit, and then he reluctantly had to do The Hobbit because Guillermo del Toro had to step back because of
Yeah.
studio bullshit. Because he was ready to die after Return of the King. That was the greatest feeling he ever had, was the end of that franchise because it nearly killed him, and that's why he didn't want to do The Hobbit originally. He was just going to produce and all that kind of stuff, which is
Yeah.
another downfall of the Hobbit movies, but that's a different story altogether.
Just real quick. And with this book, how thin it is, there's probably, I don't know, 60 Fantastic Beasts in it at that point. I would love to see like some original Guillermo del Toro monsters in there.
Yes,
Because
yes,
it's not like this one, which came out after I believe the second movie,
yeah. It came
which
out to
is
try to capitalize on it. Yeah.
a lot thicker, has a lot more monsters in it. It's like I would love to see some original weird ass shit.
Well, also, especially when it's getting darker and you can go more the monster route as opposed to the creature route, there can be
Yeah.
some menacing shit in there. So let's try to fix some of this because this is technically the fix example. This kind of somewhat has turned into the critique of the movie.
Oh, actually, no, that's okay. Because this will go in with the fixing aspect of it.
What I find problematic in this movie, like we first discussed, they're trying to tell the wrong story. Let's focus on Newt. And I'm flabbergasted you used the Indiana Jones one because that was one of my notes. I was like, Magic Indiana Jones world spanning.
It's the easiest solution.
And it's a cool solution.
Exactly. And for some reason, no one does it.
And what's hilarious to me is this: you can tell it's a priority that they want to make the whole world a magical universe or a magical
Yes.
world and not just the UK in the game. Because they start expanding upon all these different schools of different continents and all these different waves of different people and their tribes or their cultures or their countries all having ties to magic in a different way than UK's Hogwarts.
And not only that, at this point, J.K. Rowling had already done Pottermore,
Hmm.
where she had talked about the other international schools and other wizards around the world trying to
Hmm.
create this vast world of Harry Potter.
Yeah. And that's where I just go, why not do that? Why? And you can don't do it every movie, obviously, but have we went to Wagadu down in Africa because there was 15 minutes beginning of a movie. It's your first. It's the opening to every Indiana Jones movie where it has to start on the cliffhanger in the middle of the action.
Hmm.
Newt's at Wagadu in Africa because a magical creature has gotten loose. That's so dangerous that they're like, we need Scamander to take care of this, otherwise our students are fucked.
And they do that with the Secrets of Dumbledore, pretty much, where he starts off in that jungle with the ear looking creature.
So that's where I would go. A lot of my notes on the first one are this: I think this movie's too American. I think they're trying to make it too much American centric. I think New York's a bit too big for the setting of magic that they set up.
Ooh, I disagree.
And I think there's too much Muggle time in this movie.
What do you mean by that?
So here's why I think New York is too big. If you're trying to say that there's this big conflict brewing between magical world and the non-magical world, right? And we need to protect the secret of our society. We need to protect our identities, all that kind of stuff. You know where you don't do that? The biggest goddamn city on the planet.
Sure. Yeah.
And also, like the first Obscurus attack. Does that happen in an only magical district? No.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So to go off your point, it is this setting up a world where wizards and witches in America only live in New York or where Ilvermorny is? That's the question.
Yep.
Because it seems that the only choices they have are to work at Makusa or at the school in New York in America. Like, what other jobs could they have?
And my issue is with that, you have a rich history to play with of bullshit magic stories of the past of the United States. Salem's sitting right up the fucking road and not nearly as big. And hasn't there already been stories based off that at Pottermore or other stuff?
I
I know they
I don't
mentioned at
believe
least
so.
once. I thought they at least
They
mentioned once.
because I remember everyone questioning why Salem wasn't the choice for the
Ilvermorny?
school.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm trying. I'll Google it real quick here, but yeah, I mean, I can explain why New York is the choice they go with for the city. It's simply because that's where J.K. Rowling chose Makusa to be.
And that's not what I I just think it's counterproductive to your message. If this is a real problem, so set aside the fact that it shouldn't be done, right? That we shouldn't be doing this whole Yakuza, uh, Nomad Magic War story. We shouldn't be doing that. Or if we really want to do that, that's fine, but we don't go so much in depth of it. New York is not the place to hide. Because it's
Yeah,
different.
I mean,
If you're one
you could.
person, if you're one person trying to hide in plain sight, New York is perfect because there's so many goddamn people you'll never be noticed, and there's so much weird shit that no one's gonna notice you. That's logical. But when you're an entire conclave of magical beings that have fucking powers that the majority of the people of the city don't have, and they keep going, huh, wild shit keeps happening that doesn't make sense, and we keep being lied to, and we know we're being lied to, it's not a great place to fucking hide. That's just stupid.
Okay, so actually, just prior to the release of this movie, she did add the Salem witch trials to the history of the Harry Potter universe.
But is the movie already in
Um,
production at this point?
yeah, just saying that it's occurred because of a group of immoral witch hunters who were aware of magic.
Well, again,
So,
perfect setup for a villain. They're the descendants of the people from the witches or the witch hunters.
oh, obviously, why did that not occur to me? The second Salemers. Oh, that's why they're called that.
Yeah, but they suck and they're not interesting. Like,
No, exactly. That's my problem with that part of the storyline. Is just it's not interesting at all.
it's just sad. It's all it is. It's just wow. She sucks.
Yeah, and Samantha Morton, I like her as an actress, but she's just not given anything to do really. It's
It's
just one note the whole time.
so I'm gonna use pieces to do a pitch here of what I would have done. I understand we got to do some world building here because we're gonna start a franchise. We can't just magically go back and say not gonna be a franchise, right? Arizona at this time is wide the fuck open. You go to Arizona now, a lot of it is wide the fuck open with not a lot of people around it. Can tell you
I
from
do know
experience.
I do know there is a lot of Native American magic that J.K. Rowling had talked about in the Pottermore stuff.
Perfect because it also gets the representation stuff that you want to do and your goals of representation and making this a wider world and not just a bunch of whiteys from fucking Britain. Like,
Yeah.
you get that as well. That's great. You have it right there. Oh, I'm trying to bring it back to Arizona. Fucking do it then.
Exactly.
Because this is what 1926. Arizona is not really developed at that point. It's
Yeah.
it's barely a state by that point, and it's still. You go to Petrified Forest. You go to Monument Valley. You go to Saguaro. Even swaths and
Well,
swaths and swaths of that state are nothing. There's nobody.
I was yeah, I was just about to say they probably go to New York because it's iconic. Want to talk about iconic? Monument Valley. That is the most iconic location in Western movie making.
Oh yeah,
Period.
everybody has to do it. Everybody who wants to make a movie about the West always has a shot of Monument Valley. They always do.
Yes.
'Cause they want to be a part of the history of it. They want to be a part of it. And it's just there's so many places or better yet, go to the Black Hills. Go where Mount Rushmore is. Go to that area and you can see a lot of stuff. Or go to Devil's Tower. It already has a crazy name, which you could say is because of witchcraft. It's right fucking there, and every moviegoer will know it because of fucking Close Encounters. It'll be fine. Use that shit.
Hmm.
There are so many beautiful, fucking beautiful landscapes in this country that could be used to immediately tell you this is an American story and still accomplish this is the globe trotting, you know, world spanning magizoologist, and he's out to study and save magical creatures from extinction. He's there to help magical creatures. And you can still have the stories of there's a fucking Makuza outpost in Arizona. And you could even do the same goddamn backstory for Tina, where she's been relegated off the team because
Yeah.
she straight up attacked a person who's being hateful to somebody. You could do the same thing. It's like, well, that's why she's there. And then she gets the, the fireplace fucking message like Sirius Black in Goblet of Fire. Where it's like, you're going to go track this guy, but we're not sure what he's up about. Same thing, no problems.
Yeah.
And
Blue Network.
you can do all of that stuff and have the same positivity and none of the problem.
Although there might be a problem. I don't know if Blue Network is that old, but I mean, she's fine with destroying her canon. She's done it before.
If it's not convenient, she just doesn't do it.
She has created so many.
You're saying this
What are
isn't
those?
paradoxes and
Called?
paradoxes
Yeah,
and
there you go.
contradictions in her own work? Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you saying she doesn't
Like,
have the level of note taking that J.R. Tolkien has? Where you're like, Jesus Christ.
yeah. So one of the easy fixes to me is why didn't they reach out? Maybe they did. Probably not, though. Why didn't they reach out to John Williams to get a theme? Because not to say this score is bad, it's pretty good. I enjoy it, but the Harry Potter theme is so iconic and so attached to that franchise. Anyone in the world could hear that and tell you what it's from.
Yeah.
That's what this needed. It needed a theme.
Your point about John Williams scoring would be so much better. I don't think the score here is bad, but there's nothing about it that screams iconic. Not that John Williams has bad score. John Williams never puts out a bad score. Let's just get that straight out the way.
Yeah.
But I think it could be argued John Williams' last iconic score is Harry Potter.
Probably.
And when people talk
The
about
year
movie
the year
franchises,
before
go ahead.
the
I'm
year
sorry.
before was the year before was Force Awakens,
Yeah,
which nothing iconic in there.
you're returning to Star Wars. Yeah,
It's still good.
it's great music. I think the music is some of the strong points of all three of the sequel trilogy because it's not a strong franchise by itself.
Yeah.
But when the romantic style in which John Williams approaches music, that's his style of orchestral work. Movies as we know them today are not the same without the John Williams score that we have. You're talking about Superman, Star Wars, Indiana Jones. Like, name a franchise Jaws. Name a franchise that has an iconic score. 9 times out of 10, it's probably John Williams that does it, especially if it's with the Spielberg crew. And that's who you get to do this shit.
And and I'm not saying ask him to do the whole score. I would just ask him to do a theme. Just one song.
Yeah.
And then get someone else to do the score based on that. Like I just would love to hear what he could come up with because the first 3 Harry Potter movies just feel so magical in
Because
the
of that.
music.
Yes, they do.
And that's what's lacking in this.
That's certainly one of the things that's lacking in this franchise.
Nothing feels magical in the Fantastic Beasts movies.
Which is hilarious because there's more.
Because
Which is hilarious because there's more use of magic in this and more magical shit. than ever before.
Exactly. The fucking title is Fantastic Beasts. There should be magic inherent in it.
Yes, and it doesn't have the same whimsy, it doesn't have the same intrigue that the original franchise does that you're coming off of. And
You could argue it's because it's children in Harry Potter versus adults.
but
You can at least try.
but here's the thing, Harry Potter, I understand the books are a big thing, or the movies especially. It was meant to be children's stories that are not inherently children's stories, and they grow up with their audience, right? But Harry
Yeah.
Potter, one of the magical things that franchise really does is it intrigues adults. It intrigues everybody. There's something for everybody in those stories. And as an adult, if you go read 1 and 2, you're like, hey, it's kind of kiddish. 3, you're like, well, okay, we're getting some fun stuff
Yeah.
here. 4 and then 5 onward, it's a lot of adult theming. There's not a whole heck of a lot of, well, aren't these kids just having fun riding around on a cave troll? Isn't that hilarious?
Mhm.
That stuff doesn't exist anymore because it's grown up with its audience. And I understand we were the generation that got Harry Potter, so I don't want to dispute that. But it is amazing to me how many parents I've met of our generation that this story became special because it was their story together. It wasn't just their kid's story. This was the story we got to have together.
Yeah.
And then it's a rite of passage for adults to be the one to pass Harry Potter on to somebody else and part of the new generation. Like, I mean, hell, there are kids in our lives, in our personal lives with Marie and Ab, where Ab's already gotten the go ahead of in a year or two when they're ready for it. She gets to be the one to read Harry Potter to them, to start them on their journey. It's a big
Mhm.
deal for a lot of people. So I don't inherently think it's the kid adult thing. I think there might be something to that. But to me, you're right. It just doesn't have the same tangible feel.
Yeah. And I think another part of that is the cinematography just doesn't feel warm.
Not at
It
all.
just feel it does feel like true to real life, but when I want to create that sense of magic and wonder, that Christopher Columbus warmth, that's what you're getting.
Yeah. The cinematography's off in this. I look at. I think the cinematography in Harry Potter is great, like the whole franchise for the most part, and everything. But if you want to tell me what world do we have to set up that was done the most successfully, I immediately go back to Lord of the Rings. There's just a way that movie is shot and the way the music works with it and the everything about it. There's a tangibility to it where you feel like you can put your hand on it, but then there's these elements around you that you'll never be able to truly comprehend, but make you feel enveloped in this world of magic and wonder and majesty and just great stakes that really capture you as an audience member. Now, I look at the
Yeah,
way they shoot Rivendell and the Council of Rivendell. Just take those scenes alone.
true.
You're
Yeah.
seeing these magical races, and they're still all humanoid. There is no, like, there's no house elves. There's no, like, random house elf singer in a club, in a Prohibition era club. There's none of that. There's no women that turn into snakes. It's just
Yeah.
tall humans with pointy ears, short humans with big ass beards, and normal ass men, and one giant ass fucking wizard, and short people. That's it. But the way it's shot, the way it's told, the architecture behind it, everything around it, you go, this is a different place and time that I will never get to see. And the fact that I'm
Yeah.
getting to see it makes everything so lively and special.
Yeah. I was just looking up who the DP on Lord of the Rings was because I didn't know. Andrew Lesney. And then I was like, oh, could they have gotten him? He passed away in 2015.
Damn.
Oh, damn. That would have been a good choice.
But I just look at the way you shoot things is important. The way you do things, plot wise though. What do you keep? If we're fixing this movie, what do we keep?
I honestly have zero problems with this first movie in terms of plot, except, well, I would cut like a lot of the subplots.
I'd cut almost
I
all
would
the
cut.
subplots.
I would cut most of the second Sailor stuff. I would keep some of that in the background, not focus on it at all. You can
Okay.
hint at that with the Tina stuff, so it's in the background, but we're not putting dedicated scenes to it. And then I would cut completely the senator plotline, not needed. And then I would cut down the Credence. The Credence storyline only bothers me because I really don't like the way. Why am I blanking on his name?
Ezra Miller.
Thank you, Ezra Miller. And he loves Harry Potter. I know he's a huge fan of the Harry Potter world. In interviews and stuff, he told a story about how I think he said he was in New York when he found out, and he just screamed on the street that because he found out he was in Harry Potter. So I just don't like his portrayal of the character. It's just one note completely.
Okay, that's fair. It's very fair.
Like there's no dimension to Credence at all
There's not a lot
in
of
the
time.
first one.
Well, the funny part is there's not a lot of time given to Credence. Credence is there
Yeah,
to serve
that's
others.
true.
Credence is there to serve others. If I were gonna go in a new direction here.
Oh, I should say the reason they did the put Credence in the background is because they're doing that stupid red herring thing with the younger younger girl in the second Salemers.
The funny part is I never fell for that. It never was
No,
like.
no one did. It's so stupid.
Also, you're not gonna do that with someone like. You're not gonna cast Ezra Miller for a red herring. You're gonna cast Ezra Miller because you're gonna work with Ezra
Exactly.
Miller. It just doesn't
Yes.
make. It's one of those that you can do that, but you got to do it a lot better. And the red herring has to be person you know, and then you go to the person you don't know.
Exactly.
It can't be the person you
Like
don't
Scream.
know.
Yes. That's
And
why it's successful in Scream with Drew Barrymore.
it's no problem. Yeah, if it were me, I would go the globe spanning route. I'd start in the US. You can have a scene in New York. I don't care if you have a scene in New York or two or three, fine. I'd get out of New York entirely. I would either go to the Southwest and use the trope or use what you had in there. Or what's the Griffin, Eagle, creatures?
Thunderbird.
Thunderbird. What is he actually?
And his
What
name
isn't it? Frank?
and his name is Frank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the whole point for Newt to get to the Southwest was to release Frank, Thunderbird, that's clearly Native American mythology at work. So
Yes.
why don't we get there? And you can have him coming off the boat. Also, why can't he just apparate across the country or across the sea? Are there limits?
You need to be able. Yes, you need to be able to picture where you're going. So
Okay.
that's why you can't travel across an ocean. There are limits to the distance.
It's never explained well enough. Because even the Harry Potter nerd over my shoulder while watching this was like, why can't he? Why is he taking the fucking boat? Why can't he just apparate? I was like, I don't know.
Well,
I'm like, you're the Harry Potter nerd, not me.
once he's on the boat, he could apparate into New York City. He could just skip customs completely.
Which, why wouldn't he do that?
Yeah, that's true. That I never thought of that actually.
So that's one of those plot holes that you have to really dive into. I don't care about that so much.
Yeah.
But the apparating, I'm like, okay, fine. I, I'd say go to the Southwest. You can have a few scenes in New York and just him taking a train or him doing whatever, making these stops, or he goes up to Salem and goes to Ilvermorny, and that's where he gets his whole goal. Or it just so happens that up in Salem, there's this kid he has to help save. Okay, and the Ilvermorny like schoolmaster can say, I don't know about you, but you're trusted by the person I trust the most on this planet. Ergo, I'm going to give you a shot at this.
Mm-hmm.
Do that. Something of that nature. I think that's how you fix this movie. You focus on the stakes of the fantastic fucking beasts. Focused on Newt, Tina, and I think you can still get Jacob and Queenie in very easily.
Well, they introduced a love story with those two in this one.
Yeah.
So you could just have Queenie follow Tina, Jacob following Queenie.
Yeah. It's incredibly easy.
There's nothing anchoring Jacob to New York City.
No, he doesn't want to be there. He doesn't want to do half this shit. He wants to bake his fucking shit.
Exactly. He gets refused his bakery.
And that's the thing. I think he could do bad. I think easily you could say maybe that first adventure, like we say, if we're going to go the Indiana Jones route, which I think is the right way to do this story, right? The Niffler at the beginning in the bank is kind of their way of doing it. And they do the slow burn. I disagree with that entirely. Start hot like an Indiana Jones movie. Start hot like Star Wars.
What do you mean slow burn?
Where they go
slow burn to what?
To nothing. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
They just say, here's the beginning of the story. No.
Okay.
Start hot. If you want to do New York, fine. Do 15 minutes in New York. And do the first 15 is his Niffler got loose. Or a Niffler is on the loose. And he notices that. Or he's on his way to the train station to go, takes the boat over, and he's going up to fucking, where's Ilvermorny? Ilvermorny? Where is that? It's in the Northeast, right?
Yes. I can't remember where.
Okay, so
it's on some mountain.
So it's probably in that way. It's in Vermont, New Hampshire, or Maine. Those are the only choices there really.
Or, yeah, northern Massachusetts.
Yeah, northern Massachusetts and technically the eastern ridge of New York State, as we know. So it's just in an indescript mountain location in the Northeast.
Mount Greylock in Massachusetts.
There you fucking go. So it's technically probably part of the Berkshires, which is a lovely place to vacation if anyone wants to go there. Wouldn't spend a full week there, but a nice weekend there is quite nice. So, it's ironic because you've probably never been there, even though you lived in New Hampshire, so you're only an hour or two away.
Yep.
So, I would have had it, if you want to get the New York subsection in. Because to me, what I really despise when it's like, we want to make this American, and what do? We go to New York. I can't stand that shit. I hate it because everybody does it. And
again, it's because Makusa.
And I exactly. That's why. Also, I think it's counterproductive to your story. Makes no sense as to why that would be there. Why would you have the crux of your thing there?
Yeah, it's because she likes to create the ministries of the country into creative locations. So this one's in the Woolworth building, an iconic New York building.
Yes, but
so it's like she's just doing that just because she thinks it's clever.
Frankly, I would have put it in DC.
She could put it literally anywhere.
I would have put it in DC, and then half the time you could have put it Then you have the guise of there are people from other countries there all the time. They all have different garb. They all look different. They all sound different. You wanna know why? Because that's where people from an international basis fucking go. And it's explained. And it makes sense.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I would have said, okay, we're going to do 15 minutes in New York. He finds a niffler. Jacob's there. Jacob kind of tells a little bit of his sob story. And it's like, well, I'm going this way. And you could, it doesn't have to be like Newt says, well, we're best pals now. Why don't you come with me? You can just follow him.
I would say, see, that's why I think it's necessary, this whole New York plot, because if you want Jacob to be central to your story, you really need to explain why he is following Newt around.
I guess
Like
that's
there
true.
needs to be a logical reason of why he's there
I guess.
and why Newt would let him be there.
Sure.
Because he's not a wizard. He's not useful to
Yeah.
Newt.
His knowledge of the city is useful. That's true.
But he could just, you could argue he could just find a wizard or a witch
Right.
in New York.
Right. I mean, if you want Jacob there, well, also he doesn't have to play Muggle Jacob. He could technically play bumbling wizard Jacob as well.
That's true. I think she put Jacob in there for the audience surrogate.
Oh, 1,000%. He's the audience surrogate. I think
Yeah.
that. Well, the other thing is, if we're going to get rid of all these subplots where we don't need the conflict brewing, we don't need any of that shit. You don't need him to be a Muggle. He could just be a low-level bumbling wizard. He could be your Weasleys. That's who he is. Wizards that aren't really respected. They're treated
I think
poorly just because they're poor.
I think one of the interesting parts, you could make him a squib.
Also very interesting.
Someone from the magical world who just doesn't have magical powers. It's one of the more tragic parts of the wizarding world.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's always used as a insult comedically
Yes.
by most people, but
Specifically
it
you.
is it is tragic when you really think about it.
Yeah. My
To
entire
have
family has
this,
magical powers and I can't use shit. Yeah, it sucks.
like, and you should have magical powers, but you don't. Like that would suck.
Oh yeah. It's the ultimate tease.
So then it still would keep that the tension between Queenie and Jacob, because is he considered a muggle at that point? Probably by the American ministry, he probably would be.
Yeah.
So would they allow that marriage? Probably not. Also, you could just change that. The reason why she goes to Grindelwald, because she goes there just because she's not allowed. It's forbidden love.
So stupid.
So you
So
could just
dumb.
change that part of it. I hate that part of it.
She looks like such an idiot for that
Exactly.
move.
I do. I'm fine with this entire movie in New York. I just wish there was an Indiana Jones style prologue in Africa where you see Newt unsuccessfully trying to save that girl, but successfully containing the Obscurus. You don't have to explain what the Obscurus is. You're just seeing like the raw power of it, and maybe you could see like it takes like the whole village.
It damages the whole village and the whole village is kind of fucked because of it.
It takes the whole village to contain the power of it. So you're showing the strength of what it is.
Okay.
I don't know. It's just it needs some kind of prologue where it's creating more international story. I completely agree with that. It's more Indiana Jones-ish because, I mean, Indiana Jones is a masterpiece.
Yes.
Maybe not the fourth and fifth, but definitely not the fifth, not the fourth. But
By
um,
some people's standards, not the second.
hey, I love Temple of Doom.
I I mean, you're talking to someone whose favorite movie of all time is Raiders. I get it.
Yeah, it's just I just don't know why they don't utilize the aspect of what the Newt Scamander story is supposed to be,
Yes. I
where
think
he's where and he even says in this movie he's trying to convince people around the world that these fantastic beasts are not something to be feared. And why are you not going to the rest of the world to show that then?
yeah. That's a great point. What I would say is if we're going to go that direction with you, I would go I think your prologue is perfect. Start in tragedy. That's awesome. Cuz also that means you can have the pseudo disgraced Newt Scamander where he has to be watched. People are like, "Oh, this Scamander guy tried to get an Obscurus and failed, and people died because of it. But they can't
Yeah,
inherently prove
plus
it's his fault, so that's why he's
yeah,
still running around."
plus you also know the truth that later that he's telling the truth about like he did try to save this girl.
Yeah,
Really, he could be a 100% lying about that. Really,
yeah,
if he really wanted to. We know Newt isn't a liar, but he could be.
right. And so you have that, and then you can go. That's where you could put the second Salemers in just a hair, just as a foil to Newt. Where they're really where the first act is him getting there, you meet everybody, great. Second one is him trying to figure out, okay, where the fuck is this Obscurus? Who is it? All that kind of stuff. The third act is him solving the problem.
Yeah, the second Salemur stuff, just keep it like speeches and banners and picketing. Just keep it in the background.
Yeah.
Don't dedicate storyline to it.
Yeah, and like that's where I could go. Would you keep the Credence character? Or a version of
I
the
think
Credence
you
character?
I think well, actually, if you introduce the Obscurus through my version of the prologue, you don't have to anymore.
Yeah.
Because what I would do in that case is as much as I don't want to make Colin Farrell the villain just because I love Colin Farrell, I would create Graves as the introduce him as one of the main villains of the story, and he's going after Newt's Obscurus. He's trying to, he's trying to capture it for Grindelwald, and that's a way that these two stories could combine later.
Okay.
And but that's also I'm saying the Fantastic Beasts movies are not about Dumbledore and Grindelwald.
Yeah.
We're creating a completely different franchise with those two.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, I would do like 3 movies each and then a fourth and fifth movie that converges.
I think that's fair.
And that's how those two stories could meet is Graves successfully captures Newt's Obscurus and delivers it to Grindelwald.
Fair. Very
Which
fair.
you that way you keep out the whole Credence is a Dumbledore, Aurelius Dumbledore storyline. You don't need that
Oh yeah, I forgot. That's so stupid. I forgot about that and repressed it from my memory.
because in no way do they hint at Aberforth having a son or the Dumbledores having another brother or cousin.
So is that official or is that just a lie?
Aurelius Dumbledore is Aberforth's son
It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
because, but it's because I'm trying to think here. Aberforth, I believe, had a relationship with someone. It broke off before Aurelius was born, I think.
So he doesn't know that Aurelius exists, so ergo you don't need to deal with the pesky thing of, hey, this guy who clearly actually does care is in someone's life. Yeah.
I think that's
What a
how they decided
stupid
to
ass
go.
idea. God, I hate that. Oh, it's so
It's
bad.
just you could just clean this up so easily where you streamline everything. Um and then you're also keeping the the globetrotting aspect of it because Graves could just be following him or going after him.
Yeah.
He could be the what God, I'm terrible right now. I keep blanking on names. What's the guy who keeps following Indy?
Oh. Oh, God. Renee.
Yeah, but what's his last name?
Belloc.
Belloc. Thank you.
Yeah, it's Renee
Yeah,
Belloc.
he could be a Belloc who just keeps following Newt around
Well,
and creating problems for him.
I think if we want to go the globetrotting route, you can't be all in New York. But I think the majority could be in New York.
Oh, I would end the movie in Arizona. That would be the just the end, like 5 minutes maybe.
See, if I were me, what I would do in your telling of this, I would start Africa with the prologue. I would do the vast majority of Acts 1 and 2 in New York to involve the Credence character, so to speak, in Graves trying to hunt him down and all that kind of stuff. Because why, like, how do you catch an obscurus if it's attached to somebody? That person has to run of some kind, right?
You
Theoretically.
need to detach it from that person.
Right, but how are you going to do that? Obviously, you can solve that with magic. I'm not saying that's the problem, but
That's the unknown.
I would have them interact, have Credence run away somewhere else via the train or magic, whatever the fuck you want to say. It's a world full of magic. Go to Salem. Go to the rest of the Northeast. Go to.
Sure.
I would say Salem, just because it's the easiest. And do a fictional
Hmm.
Salem. And that's where the final conflict between Newt and Graves for Credence's soul, essentially.
It would Graves be Grindelwald in yours?
No, I would go with yours. That Graves is a lackey. That he's a
Okay.
second. Because if we're going to build these two things concurrently, part of the reason Thanos feels awesome is that Thanos doesn't do all the fucking dirty work. Thanos only does the
Exactly.
dirty work when only Thanos can do the dirty work.
Yes, you need to build him up as a character, as a great villain.
One of the best things about Dumbledore, if we're going to use this franchise for an example, Dumbledore doesn't do shit for years.
Yeah, that's true.
You just hear, oh, Dumbledore, Dumbledore, Dumbledore. And then Half Blood Prince is on, and you're like, this motherfucker's a G. He's the fucking best there is.
Well, in finally in Order of the Phoenix, when him and Voldemort duel, like, finally, this is some badass shit.
Exactly. You're building to your threats. I don't care what it is. Your storylines can't immediately be best bad guy, best good guy. We're at it. Unless you're telling the rivals that grow concurrently story, which that isn't what those two
Hmm.
are at the time. These two are already have been removed. These two have already fallen in love and having a fallout. So you don't have to do that. I would I would seriously consider the Graves as the lackey. The final conflict happens in Salem or outside the grounds of Ilvermorny, wherever the fuck you want to go, in the Northeast. And then the Arizona thing that we want to do, that's how we set up. Okay, we gave you New York to show you, hey, this is an international story now, but we're not just stuck in New York. And then that's the reason he has to leave. Why wouldn't he just stay in New York with Tina if it's working out? And then he can go, okay, well, I still need to get Frank back to the Southwest. I have so many other things I need to do, and my notes and my work isn't done yet.
Yeah. I the only problem, well, not the only problem. I really would like to keep the Jacob character throughout the entire series.
Yeah,
So that's why I would keep it in New York the whole time.
I mean, if he's a squib, he has
Oh yeah, that's true.
he has magical knowledge. He knows everything. He
True.
just can't do anything. So that's where Newt's never been to the U.S. Tina's weary and suspicious of him for the first 2 acts of the movie. Okay. If Jacob's just a squib, he has magical knowledge. You have Tina's weary of Newt for the whole time. So they're more not adversarial, but she's not so forthright and so willing to just outright give him knowledge. So you can still have Jacob kind of be his guide to America.
Hmm.
That way you have Jacob still there, and then Jacob being there, Queenie's like, well, I'm going. Tina's like, motherfucker, now I have to go.
Or you could just have it where she she's a low level or
Yep,
and she gets assigned the job of following him.
yep. I
Something
also
like
thought
that.
about that route. That's what I would have done if I was going the pure Indiana Jones. We're not staying in New York. We're going X, Y, and Z. These are the places we're going.
And then or she gets assigned to go with Graves to follow him.
Ooh, I kind of like
Something like
that.
that. And then by the end, she finds out that Graves is a bad guy and turns on him with Newt.
I like that.
Could do that. Um, yeah, to talk about the actual movie for a sec, it is crazy how long they're still trying to find the Fantastic Beasts. When I was rewatching it, I think it was like an hour and 40 minutes in or something where they go and see Narlac, the goblin,
Yeah.
to find out where the Akami is, the bird, where they're
Yeah.
looking for the Akami and Demi guys, the invisible one.
Yeah.
I was like, we're still looking for the fucking beast? You're trying to build up to the Obscurus and Credence right now.
That
Why are you
obscure, I will
still
say, the obscure stuff ends so quickly. It's just like, well, we got to end the
exactly
movie. We got to end the movie.
like if your story's about finding the beast, make it completely about that. If your story's about the Obscurus, make it about that then, and wrap up the um recapturing the beast
Yeah.
within the second act at least,
Fair.
or early in the second act, midpoint maybe. Like,
Fair.
and that's where J.K. Rowling don't boast about not reading a screenplay book. Your structure is fucking awful. I have no problems with your characters. Well, that's not true. Because a lot of the writing where like the senator calls Credence a freak and stuff where it's just so on the nose. We really need that. Like, can we have some gray area in some of these characters?
Yeah, she does a really good job of clearly defining good and bad. And then she usually does one good gray character.
Exactly.
I don't think she achieves that here.
She the perfect example of the gray area is Sirius Black in Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yeah.
But she doesn't do it often.
Yes. And rough. Yeah, no, her structure is way off. And the character building is I have no issue with her characters outside of a few little tweaks. Actually, that's a lie. I have real problems with Pickery. But outside of Pickery, I don't have a lot of beef with a lot of the characters. Because you know Graves is meant to be he's gonna turn
Yeah.
to be evil somehow. Not like
Yeah, that one's obvious.
you know he's evil from the get go, you just don't know how evil.
Yeah.
And then it just progressively gets worse. You know, Tina's just trying to get back in. I don't think that's fleshed out enough, but it's fleshed out. I don't think it's fleshed out to the point where I'm super satisfied, but it's fleshed out enough that I understand it. Still, why she's like continually trying to get back in. You're like, who fucking cares?
I think for Harry Potter nerds, it's enough. Like people who know what an aura is and stuff like that.
Sure.
Like for the general population, definitely not.
No. But yeah, I Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is the perfect example of surface level. It's just fun.
Yeah.
And then
And
when you look deeper, you're like, fuck, we got some problems here, man.
and that's why the the problems in the sequels, some of them are created in the first one, but a lot of them are not. A lot of them are just straight up bad writing in the sequels.
Yeah.
Like they have a good setup and a good base to go off of in the first one.
Well, so
And then
the second and third ones just go into this territory that they make the first movie irrelevant. Just irrelevant.
100%.
Newt does
Yeah.
not matter. Newt is not of consequence. Newt is
Yeah.
Newt just happens to have some fun little gadgets known as magical creatures that allow him to do some shit.
Yeah. Do you
It's
real quick, do you got a favorite magical fantastic beast?
the Demiguise is pretty rad, I ain't gonna lie. And I also like the like lion dragon with the pufferfish mane. That's pretty rad too.
Oh, I don't I wrote all of them down. I
And
don't
the
know what that one
and
is.
admittedly the Thunderbird is way more up my alley. The Thunderbird's like the best, like whoa. But you don't have a lot. Ironically enough, you don't have a lot of interactions with Frank outside of that one.
Yeah.
Because a Thunderbird, that's like metal. I'm like, yes, that's great.
Yeah. I I don't know what that one that you the lion like one is.
Yeah.
I gotta go. I love Pickett, the bow truckle. That's my boy.
Yes, and Niffler, the Niffler's also very fun.
Yeah, I mean that's like talk about creating a creature just that can sell toys.
Oh yeah. Well, also, as someone who has a cat that's a Niffler, I get it. I get it. Anything
Yeah.
shiny, she's gonna pick up and she's gonna try to run away with. So that's why half the time we're like our little Niffler.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And a lot of those are introduced in the Harry Potter books. So it's nice to see them.
Yeah, it's just we could do a little bit better. Also, you know what's crazy to me? No hippogriff. I understand the hippogriff already has its place with Buckbeak. You want to talk about an easy way to introduce this? Hippogriff. People know it, people accept it, people already get it. I'm not saying you
I would
need it,
say
but it's crazy
I
to
would say
me. Of
leave it for a sequel.
I get that, but it's hilarious to me. Of all the ways that we said not a lot of chances, very safe. That is like the ultimate safe way to introduce the idea
Sure.
of Fantastic Beasts, and they're like, no, too on the nose. Everything else, though, you're like, Oh, let's go save.
Yeah.
It's hilarious to me. I'm like, what? But yeah, now this franchise could use some lot of help that we could work with.
It's funny that they, well, it made a lot of money. It was successful. That's why they stuck with David Yates and J.K. Rowling solo writing it. But after the Crimes of Grindelwald, they should have made some changes.
Crimes of Grindelwald's so bad. It sucks. God, that movie sucks.
It's there's aspects I enjoy. Like
Sure.
I like, what's his name? Newt's brother, Theseus,
Some whatever, yeah.
Thaddeus.
I think it's
I don't
Thesis or
know.
something like that.
Yeah, I like that character, but yeah, there's just so many awful storylines in there,
I mean,
and the way they leave Queenie's character is
oh,
awful.
that's a true crime. Is the way they leave Queenie.
Yeah,
Even if you want her to go, it's the stupidest thing ever. Well, he said he was going to make it better. And you're like, that's it? That's what's going to get
yeah,
you to go. No
yeah,
great
and I would say,
deceit. No great deceit where someone really lies to you and proves in front of you that they're going to do what you want them to do, but behind the scenes it's just a lie to get you to go. It's
mhm,
just him saying, "We need to do better. We're going to do better for you." She's like, "Yay." Just does it?
yeah. I mean, in the third, my version, if we're doing three, three, and then four, five meeting up,
Yeah.
you could have in the third one, she turns to Grindelwald. And then the end of the fourth one, that's when she turns back.
I think you've just set up a future episode, kid. I think you've kind of fucked yourself by having to rewrite these movies now.
No, 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 no. I'm not writing 4 movies, 5 movies.
You don't have to write them. I'm just saying notes.
I got other stuff to write.
Here's the broad plots of it. I mean, I just did fucking Phantom Menace,
Yeah.
which we got a lot of comments on that. So thank you everybody who's commenting on that. I need to get back to you on a lot of stuff, but I did get that we
It's
were boomers and that episode 1 was a masterpiece, and I haven't responded yet because I really don't want to immediately go into. You're wrong, but
someone said it's a masterpiece.
and
Oh god.
we're stupid boomers and we don't understand that it's a masterpiece. And again, I
My
understand.
my uh, my screen did not freeze there. I
Yeah,
just didn't know what to say.
yeah. Again, it's one of those. I know there's a lot of people that grew up on those Star Wars movies, and here's the thing: I don't want to say it as if I'm not part of that. We're part of that, and I loved them too
Mhm.
as a child. But even as a young teenager, I could look and go, "This isn't perfect. This isn't even
Yeah.
good." Sometimes there are aspects that I think are really fun. There are aspects I think suck. Just like Fantastic Beasts. I love
Yeah.
those 4 main characters. I love their chemistry together. They're all incredibly endearing. They're all incredibly fun.
Okay. Yeah, to wrap it up, why don't we do that? What's the strongest aspect of this movie to you? And then what's the weakest aspect?
Strongest aspect is the 4 of them, Jacob specifically.
I would agree 100%.
And then the weakest aspect, I would say, is to me. I don't want to even say there's one thing. I think I'll do this. I'll do it in two. The greatest, the thing that sucks the most is the subplots that go nowhere. I'm looking at specifically Senator Shaw and the newspaper, Second Salemers, and the Makuza stuff. I think the Makuza stuff is really bad for the most part.
Hmm.
But I think the greatest failure of anything in this movie is probably Pickery. Because you're supposed to, like, it's shot as if you're supposed to like her, and then in the future it's like, oh, she's a hero. No, she's not. She's an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say the weakest aspect for me, because you have a story and you have a screenplay. The screenplay is the actual thing you write,
Yeah.
where it has the dialogue and everything. The weakest part of this is the story,
Yeah.
because that has all the aspects of Grindelwald, that has all the aspects of every single plot line, all the subplots, and that's 100% J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
That's coming from someone who loves Harry Potter.
Yes, you do.
And but it's just a mess.
Utter mess. Brutal. 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 Yeah. I think if you could just find a way to focus on those main four and just
Main
creature hunt,
four,
you're fine.
traveling the world, looking at Fantastic Beasts.
That's where you go with this franchise. That's it. That's it.
That'd be great.
And then if you want to do your side franchise with Dumbledore and Grindelwald, go for it.
Exactly. Just tell a whole separate story. It's fine.
Yeah.
People will go watch that too.
Because it's Harry Potter. People want to see Harry Potter.
And probably those will probably make more money
They will.
because it's Dumbledore.
Yeah. You say Dumbledore, you're like, I want to go see that.
Exactly.
Oh, but nonetheless, now we got a lot of stuff. Maybe this will be a future rewrite episode. Who knows? Now I'm intrigued enough where I might just jot down notes of how I would do this franchise. Or I think it'd be really interesting if we sat down and did your model, and one of us does the Fantastic Beasts, and one of us has to do the Dumbledore Grindelwald storyline franchise.
Well,
That could be really interesting.
Unfortunately, the Dumbledore Grindelwald, I'm pretty sure it's already done.
Yeah, but you could tell it differently.
Yeah, that's true. You can ruin the canon.
I mean, or you could just tell it the way you want to tell it. Just, you can play within the canon.
Break it up.
Yeah, break it up. Tell it how you want to tell it. I mean, do the prequel where you actually show it. Instead of just saying, oh, they were this, and that. Show it. Show Ariana dying. Show all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the smartest decision, but you could do it.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, this has been a lot of fun, and I think we got some extra content out of it down the road with some future stuff. But yeah, it was fun revisiting this world. I didn't realize how much I was intrigued by it, even though it's flawed as fuck.
Yeah, just go back and watch Harry Potter instead.
I don't feel
literally any of the movies are better.
Yeah, I mean, I think I get a small dose of Harry Potter every year, and I'm happy. I don't even really need it. I'm just kind of like, okay, cool. Like every year, I get an urge to watch it, and I never do. I'm like, I don't think to, but maybe, But this is fun. So we'll be back next week with a further episode. We'll probably reveal the rest of our calendar for this year, seeing how we're finally in December, so we only have a couple shows left. We're gearing up for our 2024 in review episode, where we're going to do a lot of best movies and worst movies and recommendations and all kinds of stuff for you guys there. So it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun. But as always, thank you guys for watching and listening wherever you may be. We appreciate it wherever you are. Go watch a great movie. Peace, love, and hugs to you all. Goodbye!